Hey, I'm Brianna Régine, an award-winning brand growth strategist for entrepreneurs and decision makers who feel stuck and are ready to get strategic about reaching their next level. But let's be clear. In this podcast, we ditch the highlight reel and get into the raw, real stories of what it takes to build a brand from the people making it happen. No more perfect perceptions of success, no more unrealistic expectations, no more feeling powerless. This is your go-to space for the real deal Holyfield about business growth, full of obstacles, funny stories, real talk, self-reflections, hot takes on current events, and must-have tips. If you've got a fresh idea brewing, you're a sucker for new strategies and insights, or you need to be reminded of how freaking dope you are, this podcast is for you. Let's get into it. Hey y'all, it's me, Brianna Régine, and this is another episode of the Brand Unveiled podcast. Welcome back if this is not your first time listening, and if this is your first time listening, welcome. This is not your traditional entrepreneur and business podcast. This is a space where I can let the walls down of my professionalism, wherever the hell that means, and give you the tea. So that way, I save you time. Hopefully I save you money and I save you from going insane. All right. So anyway, pop culture, really quickly. I don't have anything specific. The only thing I want to say is if you take a look at what's going on in the world right now, particularly in the United States of this here America, same shit. If you take a look at what's going on, I want to encourage you, and I'm taking a bit from Morgan DeBon. Respectability politics, what the helly? Who needs them? Who needs them when we're being led by who we're being led by? If you have a nation in a government shutdown and you decide that you are going to build a ballroom, a multi-million-dollar ballroom, among other insane things, if our leader can do that, why can't you too have the unmitigated gall and audacity to do whatever it is that you want to do to make a positive impact, of course? Think about it. Sit on it. Do not minimize your light, darling. Why would you do that? People who are less qualified are getting away with doing the absolute insane things because they can. So while you may have been dealt a different deck of cards, I just want to implore you, the confidence that is within you, use it to build that muscle quickly. Because when you do, and provided that you're more qualified, which 9 times out of 10 I believe that you are, sweets, you can do amazing things in the world. You hear me? Moving right along before I get a little too into it. Aha moment in business. Successful pitching occurs when you do the heavy lifting. Now, at a high level, that may be a no-brainer, but let me explain to you what I mean. Sometimes when we really want the success of a new initiative, we want to reach a particular revenue milestone, we want things to happen quickly, right? I think we can overthink. At least for me, I can overthink instead of really taking a step back and figuring out where I can be the most intentional. And it seems to be a reoccurring theme that going back to the basics works. So prime example, I was asked to speak to a group of young adults for a volunteer opportunity and share my marketing and communications expertise. But when I had conversations with the person that reached out to me and I learned more about their goals, I sat and I was like, I could really provide value and maximize the experience for these young adults while helping the organization hit their goals of increased engagement, in person and online, facilitating community among the students, creating memorable experiences outside of the classroom, those kinds of goals. I can do that in a way that maximizes their return on investment beyond volunteering. So what did I do? I came up with a workshop series and I added a dollar amount to it. I also decided to pitch myself and sort of do the heavy lifting of framing what the series could be about and what the outcomes, because really the outcomes, what the transformation the students would receive. I did that because I had revenue goals, right? So instead of taking what was in front of me, I thought, how could I authentically serve this community, but also get what it is that I need? And sometimes, no matter how long you've been in business, I believe there are circumstances where you're going to be in your head and you are going to minimize yourself. And it may not even be on purpose. It just may be the fatigue of running a business. It may be your bandwidth. So you don't have the capacity to think about alternative ways to get the job done, especially if it's not necessarily at the top priority of your list. Tons of things. But when I really sat back and I said, I definitely want to serve this community, this is in alignment with another passion of mine, but I also need some money. I was like, I need to at least ask for what it is that I need. And so I took some time, I crafted the pitch, I did the heavy lifting of clearly stating, this is what you guys want to accomplish, this is how I'll do it, this is the transformation that'll be provided. And they were like, great, we'll have you do it. So it won't be a one-off volunteer situation. You can do the whole series as you painted it. This is why you're the expert, because we didn't even think of that. So don't be afraid to do the heavy lifting of the person that clearly sees value in you and wants to work with you, but may have presented it in a way that at the time their capacity allowed them to, how they understood the problem. That's how they presented the opportunity to you. Don't be afraid to go back and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Ask for what it is that you need. Okay? All right. On the mic consulting. Now, this is something that I really feel like I have proof of concept this year. Like, what I'm talking about is best practices for following up. I hear this narrative all the time when I go to speak about networking, particularly to college students, or I'm mentoring a college student. For PR, there's definitely an emphasis on following up. It's actually very essential. So I know it works in that regard. But when I think about business development and lead generation and customer and client relationship management, following up is super key. And even more so, especially if you feel that you are pulled in multiple directions. And so when I think about the ways in which I have nurtured relationships this year and also converted relationships into revenue this year, it boils down to me following up after I met someone at a networking event, which a lot of people don't do. Like let me get your digits. What's your Instagram? Are you on LinkedIn? You know what I mean? Oh, I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna take you for sure. Let's connect. When I say I ain't no liar. What do you think this is? I am not no liar. And that alone will help you stand out, because most people are just talking. They just chit chat, or they do have all the intention to follow up, but then they get bogged down by the day-to-day stuff. But it works. It definitely works. So I wrote down 5 steps when it comes to best practices for following up. The first one, commit to doing it. I may not follow up the next day like I would want to, but definitely within the 7-day period, I try to, unless they say follow up with me around this particular time frame. I make note of that and follow up. If I make a note in my planner to follow up with someone or on my spreadsheet, I have made it a point to do it, even if it's time consuming. Number 2, be intentional. This is a piece of feedback that I've heard from folks that talk about following up, but I want to give like actual examples of what being intentional looks like. So, personalization. Reference something in the initial interaction so that folks can remember you, because you never know. People are busy. People meet other people all of the time. So personalize the message, not crazily, but something that'll make folks remember where you met, what was said in the conversation, what was the most memorable thing. Personalization is key. Reference a pain point. So when I go to networking events, if the goal there is to meet potential clients, I have made it a point to, of course, be conversational. But after going beyond, what are you working on right now? How are you feeling? I ask them, what are your goals? What is your company infrastructure like? What do you think is getting in the way of those goals? Like, I just start having strategic conversations, but in a very conversational way. So that way it doesn't feel like a strategy call. But I know that my goal is to listen intentionally, listen actively, be able to provide a solution in a suggestive way, not in a matter of fact way. And then because they see the value that I provide, or one guy literally told me, "You sound smart." And I said, "I am smart, shawty." Um, because they're able to feel the value, and because you are responding to their current pain points that they're having in their current role, they're more incentivized to exchange information with you and to have further conversation with you. And I'll also add there too, in addition to like getting an understanding of their pain points, their goals, their desired outcome. One thing that I tried recently at a networking event that I never did before was, if they said that they were interested in connecting, I was like, great, can we pull out our calendar now and put it in? And I got a few that were locked in on the calendar. And then what I did was I followed up before the call with information about my company and just giving them context and reminding them what we're going to talk about in the first place. So, boom. Number 3, prepare. Know what your end goal is and be courageous to ask for it. So, very similar to the example I gave where I changed a volunteer opportunity to funds, right? Prepare for the call. Look up the company. Get some context about where you think you could add value to the partnership, the potential client, whatever the goal is when it comes to engaging with this person further. Look into them so that way they know that you did your research, and also be clear about your end goal. So if your end goal is to work with this person, have your sales pitch, quote unquote, ready to go. Know that you want to book another call. Maybe it's more slow down. Maybe it's a more of an in-depth strategy call, or maybe it's an action plan, or maybe it's asking for an introduction to a decision maker, or maybe it's request for mentorship, right? Know what it is that you want to accomplish from that call, and don't leave that call without asking for it. Even if it's a soft ask, right? Because I do believe that timing is everything. And sometimes in your gut, you can feel if something isn't the best time to do something, but ask for it. And it takes courage, but do it. And then the last thing is, or sorry, I lied. I put 2 more things on here. Number 4, be patient, right? Don't take things personally. Depending on the time of year, people got a lot going on. So be patient. And number 5, follow up again. So after you have that meeting, send a recap email, maybe with more context, more information. I'm very adamant about call to action. So instead of leaving it at, please let me know, like, I'll check in with you next week or a few weeks from now if there was a designated time frame to circle back. I'll keep an eye out for an email introduction between X, Y, and Z. Like, be intentional. Be intentional about your words. Be intentional about the correspondence that you send. Leave ambiguity out the door. Ambiguity don't get nobody paid. They don't get nobody no opportunities. Be courageous to ask for what it is that you want. And this is something that I've practiced, particularly, I would say, this year. I'm finding that this year, and I'm figuring out what that looks like for me. So I'm doing it in an authentic way that doesn't feel grimy or sticky, but it's also flexing my confidence muscle. And it's giving me opportunities that truthfully were, at least I believe, they were there for me all along. I'm just going to get them, or I'm creating them. So hopefully that helps. If you find that it helps, like, comment, share, subscribe. Share this episode with an entrepreneur or a decision maker who needs to be reminded that they already have the juice. They just have to go for it. And they would find the follow-up practices useful as far as ripping the Band-Aid and using useful skills to be able to do that. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Thank you for listening. Bye bye.